was so nice. I hadn't had a massage in a while, and I've been doing this mutual aid project, giving out body work, and so I feel like I've given like 5 a week, which is high for me. Usually I'm doing meditation mostly, and just like 1 or 2 a week massages. And so I've been jealous of my, like, I've been like, I want it, somebody do it. And so today I got that, so I'm feeling great within the context, of a crumbling world. All right. We'll start to settle in today. If you want to take a breath for yourself, there's just a gentle invitation before we start anything to just notice yourself. Feel free to keep using the chat as we go. Happy to read them, and we'll let other people float in. Welcome, Susanna. We're just getting started here. Yeah, we can settle in. Take a couple breaths for yourself. Feel free to keep checking in, saying hi in the chat as we go. And I'll just go over our kind of structure for today before we do anything. Everything I say or do is opt in, opt out. If you need to take a break, leave, come back, be on screen, off screen, be talking in the chat, be not talking in the chat, be moving or still, really any sort of expression that feels appropriate today. I hope you feel safe enough to explore and to just really, we're trying to ground ourselves in like listening, that deep listening skill of like, okay, what are my needs and how can I tend to them? At the like very core of this practice, I feel like is that kind of invitation. And so as we move today, we'll start with just a few words on practice, and then we'll move into our short reading before we do our Okinaga breathing exercise, which I'll explain before. And then today for our chanting mantra practice, for our main like Mother Harriet practice, I was thinking of switching the format a little, so I'll hope if you are repeats, which some of you are, I hope you'll give me some feedback later. But we'll start, the first round will be the Heart Sutra mantra, and then our communal prayers, and then the second round will be the spiritual, so we can have more time with both, I think, at once. Might be a more natural flow. So we'll see how that goes. But that's all my housekeeping at the top. Yeah, I invite you to settle in, to feel your body. Notice maybe the feeling of the weight of your clothes against you, or the temperature of the air around you as you just arrive to your seat. You can take a couple deep breaths in and out. And today, as we move into this kind of mode of practice, not like we weren't practicing before, but we shift into this one. And I really wanted to explore, like, I don't know, just that energy of like why, or the question of why do a protector practice at all? This is modeled after kind of tantric protector practices, like a medicine Buddha practice or something like that. Maybe a part wrathful deity practice, kind of a, a combo of all the things. And I was wondering like what, even just for myself, not why lead it, but like why do this type of practice? Why do I feel called to this? Why does this feel important to me? And Lama Rod often uses the word attunement, which I feel I've really like latched onto as making sense for me in my brain. And meaning like if you think of oh, thank you someone for turning on the captions. If you think of like tuning an instrument, right? You are, if I'm tuning a violin, I'm stretching or loosening the strings so that the frequency is matching the one that I want, right? So I'm changing the waves, the vibrations to make a different sound. And so if we think of our practice as like a practice of attunement, in the context of using a protector like Mother Harriet, we are, or I am, trying to attune myself to that kind of hum and heartbeat of liberation that her example has shown me, right? I'm trying to find a way to not only be able to bask in her light, but to shine in a similar way, to be able to cultivate that inner light. And so today, before we move into our reading, we'll do just a little like opening visualization, because I think not only does protector practice give me a chance to like attune to my ancestors, to, my community, to that kind of revolutionary spirit, it gives me a real chance to explore a kind of connection that's not going to be there without our constant attention and tending, right? I'm not going to be able to develop any kind of relationship with Harriet Tubman or any of my ancestors unless I'm trying to do it, right? It's not, unless I have, some sort of spells or something. Like, for me, there's no sort of visions that happen or anything like that. So I have to think about these people and, like, reflect on their life, learn their histories, tell their stories, and internalize them and cultivate a real relationship where now I have, like, a dreaming practice where it's really, like, weird connective dreams that I get to explore and different things like that that aren't the point. But the point is that ability to cultivate deep connection with someone you can't just touch right in front of you, I think is like a foundation of radical compassion, right? Being able to feel the pain of the world, being able to recognize the pain of people outside of your group as your pain, as your stories as well, as your true community, I think for me has felt so like liberating in a way that I feel less like burnt out in community. Like I feel almost like sustained because the ways in which I'm connecting feel more based on connection rather than transaction these days. And I don't know that that will always last. I'm sure that'll go in flux like everything. But for now, I'm in this little pocket that I'm trying to explore where everything really feels like I'm just like hanging out, trying to get free with my friends. Each expression, like whether it's nannying, which I do on the weekday mornings, a little 1 year old, or like that's my little buddy. We've been together since they were born. Whether it's doing meditations like this with my, chosen sanghas, or leading body work, doing grief work, anything now truly feels like, oh, I'm just finding my people. And I think especially as I've moved away from institution and moved towards community-led organizations or just, groups of people, communities, taking care of each other, it's been really freeing to see like that theory that I thought before when I was so understandably entrenched and like not having the luxury to divest from capitalism at all, was that it was always gonna burn me out. Like caring for people, no matter what, it's gonna come at a deeper sacrifice than solidarity. Like it's gonna come at like a soul sacrifice. And in kind of the last 6 or 5 years of my life, I've shifted away from that and institution and towards like this sort of just the friendship approach to Buddhism. Like, can I be a good friend to myself and others and build that out to, instead of like picturing my utopia and then trying to like, I don't know, find the formulas to get there. Like I'm just trying to start from the core of trust. That kind of like, how do I learn to trust myself? And then act, I think I talked about this last time, then act out of that trust. And I think for me, that's led to a lot less self-betrayal in different situations. And so I'm just like grieving my own actions less against myself, which is honest. I mean, I've got like 5 placements in Capricorn, so that's truly, I need any breaks I can get on the grief. It's my whole vibe, and it's always been that way. So it's nice, and I appreciate it, but it is nice to have a little levity as well. Balance that out. And just expansion, spaciousness. And so today, I'm going to share my screen. Oh, and for folks who came in after I made this announcement, I'm only on Spotlight so that the recording only gets me, but feel free to go back on gallery view if you want to sit with all the names and a couple faces. But, oh no, that's the wrong one. Hold on. This one. There we go. So, Mary, who was here the first 2 weeks, and I'm sure will be back, who's very lovely, sent me this photo and an article that I'll put in the file after, the folder, the Google folder. But this is like one of the most recent discovered photos of Harriet Tubman, and she's 85 in this picture. And I was just like looking at it and taking it in and thinking, like, to be 85 with her life, the kind of like power the kind of conviction, like even just seeing her face, like she feels like she's so small, but she feels like formless to me. Like, I can imagine her just, like, kind of floating through the sky with that cape, kind of, you know? She just feels so expansive. And so, I was looking at this picture and thinking, you know, Medicine Buddha has blue, Taras have, you know, there's green Tara, white Tara, there's different deities have different colors associated with them. And I was wondering, you know, what comes up when I think of like a color association with Harriet. Like if I wanted to kind of invite that into a practice of how I invite her into my space and really try to cultivate a real connection. And I couldn't come to any color. Nothing made sense. And I was like, maybe rainbow light. Sometimes we talk about that in Cha. And I was like, no, that also doesn't feel right. And then I found myself just like, I took like 20 minutes to like stop, you know, just yelling colors in my head basically and breathing. And so if you'll join me, we can perhaps find a posture that feels suited to taking a few breaths and visualizing a little. So whether you close your eyes or maybe just let your eyes relax a little. Perhaps we take a moment to breathe, letting the shoulders settle, jaw unclench. Knowing both stillness and motion and states in between are all accessible to us as we move, as we settle. And perhaps we take a moment with a relaxed gaze to just look at Mother Harriet. Breathing in and out, you might take in her clothes, her gaze. You might take in the picture as a whole, looking nowhere specific. As we breathe in and out, we might start to imagine sitting at the base of a tree in the forest at night. Maybe a couple night songbirds singing, leaves rustling, the stream of a river nearby. And as we sit at the base of a big supportive tree, the roots kind of making a dip for our lap, perhaps we lean back, letting the trunk support us. We might start to notice moonlight reaching out through the leaves, gently bathing over our skin. It might feel a little cool on the forehead, perhaps a little dappled light as the leaves dance in the wind, the moonlight. Perhaps like a slight fog almost, starts to just slowly wrap the body. It might feel cool on the forearms, perhaps even a little goosebumps, but somehow in the belly when you breathe in, deep warmth, and when you breathe out, a little release. And as we just sit here, soaking in the moonlight, breathing in and out with the earth, touching the earth with our bodies, touching the earth that is our bodies, giving ourselves a massage anywhere we need to, really just deeply taking a second to listen. How do I feel? What do I need? Do I believe I deserve all that boundless abundance? And as we just plant the seed of those questions, no need to attach to any stories, we can open our hearts to the moonlight, imagining the moonlight kind of sinking into the heart space as a little invitation. And Mother Harriet perhaps starts to appear before us, standing, gentle, calm, but fierce, with her feet in the earth as well, or perhaps, if it's more comfortable to imagine, her arising from the top of your head. Like smoke, she sits there, warming you. Her light joining that moonlight, almost transparent, soaking through your skin. And as we take a couple more breaths here, internally or aloud, whatever feels best, we might just speak or verbalize in your head an intention, an invitation. Mother Harriet, I welcome you to my space. I pray you see me and hear me and grace me with your light. Any image we have of her can dissolve into the moonlight that soaks into our bodies. As we take a second to just join our spirits to attune ourselves to her frequencies, we perhaps imagine the bell as the horn of that underground railroad train that we're all training on, right? We're learning to be conductors, to be not only conductors of our own agency, body, space, but conductors of our collective liberation. How to make that change, how to feed that engine, remember who we are, and transport ourselves to where we need to go. And so we'll move into Okinaga. We'll move into our story reading. I'll share my screen in case reading along feels good to you, but also feel free to just listen. It's a poem called Sometimes a Wild God, and then we'll move right into Okinaga after that. Sometimes a Wild God by Tom Hearns. Sometimes a wild god comes to the table. He is awkward and does not know the ways of porcelain, of fork, and mustard and silver. His voice makes vinegar from wine. When the wild god arrives at the door, you will probably fear him. He reminds you of something dark that you might have dreamt, or the secret you do not wish to be shared. He will not ring the doorbell. Instead, he scrapes with his fingers, leaving blood on the paintwork, though primroses grow in circles round his feet. You do not want to let him in. You are very busy. It is late or early, and besides, you cannot look him straight in the eye, because he makes you want to cry. The dog barks. The wild god smiles, holds out his hand. The dog licks his wounds and leads him inside. The wild god stands in your kitchen. Ivy is taking over your sideboard, mistletoe has moved into the lampshades, and wrens have begun to sing, an old song in the mouth of your kettle. I haven't much, you say, and give him the worst of your food. He sits at the table, bleeding. He coughs up foxes. There are otters in his eyes. When your wife calls down, you close the door and tell her it's fine. You will not let her see this strange guest at your table. The wild god asks for whiskey, and you pour a glass for him, and then a glass for yourself. 3 snakes are beginning to nest in your voice box. You cough. Oh, limitless space. Oh, eternal mystery. Oh, endless cycles of death and birth. Oh, miracle of life. Oh, the wondrous dance of it all. You cough again. Expectorate the snakes and water down the whiskey, wondering how you got so old and where your passion went. The wild god reaches into a bag made of moles and nightingale skin. He pulls out a 2-reeded pipe, raises an eyebrow, and all the birds begin to sing. The fox leaps into your eyes, otters rush from the darkness, the snakes pour through your body, your dog howls, and upstairs your wife both exults and weeps at once. The wild god dances with your dog. You dance with the sparrows. A white stag pulls up a stool and bellows hymns to enchantments. A pelican leaps from chair to chair. In the distance, warriors pour from their tombs. Ancient gold grows like grass in the fields. Everyone dreams the words to long-forgotten songs. The hills echo and the gray stones ring with laughter and madness and pain. In the middle of the dance, the house takes off from the ground. Clouds climb through the windows and lightning pounds its fists on the table. The moon leans in through the window. The wild god points to your side. You are bleeding heavily. You have been bleeding for a long time. Possibly since you were born. There is a bear in the wound. Why did you leave me to die? Asks the wild god, and you say, I was busy surviving. The shops were all closed. I didn't know how. I'm sorry. Listen to them. The fox in your neck, and the snakes in your arms, and the wren, and the sparrow, and the deer. The great unnameable beasts in your liver, and your kidneys, and your heart. There's a symphony of howling, a cacophony of dissent. The wild god nods his head, and you wake on the floor holding a knife, a bottle, and a handful of black fur. Your dog is asleep at the table. Your wife is stirring far above. Your cheeks are wet with tears. Your mouth aches from laughter or shouting. A black bear is sitting by the fire. Sometimes, a wild god comes to the table. He is awkward and does not know the ways of porcelain or fork and mustard and silver. His voice makes vinegar from wine and brings the dead to life. Thank you for listening to that reading. That one always gets me right in the chest. And moving into whatever's arising for you, no matter what it is, without much talking, I'd like to move into our Okinaga practice. Just gentle breathing expansion. I'll explain shortly. We will breathe in through the nose, imagining just letting the breath slowly trickle in through the back of the nostrils, out through the mouth, the same, just trickling out with as little force as possible. And as we breathe in and out, we'll start with 5 seconds, 10, 15. We'll stop there today. We'll just do a few rounds of each, led by the drum. So we'll breathe in, I'll hit the drum, we'll breathe out, I'll keep hitting the drum, and I'll do the counting for us. And as we move through this, I'm also seeing your chats, so thank you for continuing to talk. I appreciate feeling like we're all in community talking. But as we move through this, the invitation is to really try to relax the container that is your body around these deep breaths. So really let that breath flow in, fill the body, and then let it all out, trying to get kind of all that breath out so you can fill that little bit of emptiness before we breathe in. Resisting that urge to, on like the 10 or 15 second ones, resisting that urge to gasp and instead trusting yourself to slowly take that breath in. And I'll put this in the folder as well, but I made like a little workbook for this that was a zine, so I'll put it in there for free, the digital version. So if anybody wants, there's a bunch of tips in there, so you can dive deeper if you'd like. But we'll start by just breathing one breath in. Let all your breath out. Inhale. Exhale. Seconds in. Inhale. Exhale. In. Out. In, out. In 15. Out. In. Out. Last breath in. And let it all go. Taking a second to feel into the body. If you need to stretch, drink water. We'll transition into our first mantra practice, our main practice, which will start with the mantra from the Heart Sutra. Also, thank you everybody for letting you know about the drum. Okay. So this mantra, gate gate paragate parasamgate bodhisvaha, it's in the chat and in the doc under main practice. One translation is gone, gone beyond, gone completely beyond, awakening, so be it. And so the invitation here is to take that kind of deep breath where we practice going beyond a little bit in our bodies. We practiced inviting somebody beyond our kind of physical world into our space. And now we practice again that cultivating of, okay, through my voice, can I go beyond just producing sounds, but to really hear, the voice of my ancestors in my own deep sighs? Can I use these kind of ideas of going, that awakening, that enlightenment, that a liberated world, that us figuring this out, us rebirthing another free world like we've done before, time and time again, will be different than anything we could even dream up. And because of that, we should keep dreaming, not stop dreaming. It's not futile. It's even more important to keep dreaming bigger and bigger and bigger for ourselves, because it's going to be even more than that. And the more we're prepared to accept and prepare, our level of knowing we deserve that free world, to participate, to accept care, to form trusting relationships where we can give and receive in kind of this fluid, non-transactional, abolitionist way, we'll be prepared to really bask in that, right? I think one of the great tragedies of liberation work is that we're still not yet liberated, right? So we're dreaming that free world and grieving the fact that we're not there. And we have to deal with that dissonance and deal with that trying to remember. How did we do it before? Because we have, right? Again and again. We've ended genocides, we've ended slaveries, we've upended status quos. Indigenous people have taken back their land. We have worked with lands. There are still people who are extremely connected all over the world to their land, who know it as their own skin, right? Who pick up a rock to defend themselves because that is their body. And they are defending an extension of that body. And so this is the spirit we cultivate, or we at least invite. Maybe the aspiration to cultivate it, even if it seems too lofty. Because for me, I'm just like, whoa, how can I have that conviction to take me through? But I have to trust that together we can do it, at least for me. And so that's the kind of energy for this mantra. We'll go nice and slow. Yes, yeah, trust always. That's my word of the month, I think. Because, yeah, I won't even get into it. Let's just focus on trust. But let's all take a deep breath in. We'll go for about 7 minutes or so. So breathe in, breathe out. I'll ring the bell a couple times. Let me know by thumbs up if you can hear this. Gate, gate, para, gate, para, sam, gate, bodhi, swaha. Gati, gati, para, gati, para, sam, gati, bodhi, swaha. Gati, gati, para, Samgate Bodhi Swaha. Thank you to the drum. She's not here for today. Gate, gate, para, gate, para, sam, gate, bodhi, swaha. Gate, gate, para, gate, para, sam, gate, bodhi, swaha. Gate, gate, para, gate, para, sam, gate, bodhi, swaha. Gate, gate, para, gate, para, sam, gate, bodhi, swaha. Gate, gate, para, gate, para, sam, gate, bodhi, swaha. Gate, gate, para, gate, para, sam, gate, bodhi, swaha. Gate, gate, para, gate, para, sam, gate, bodhi, swaha. Gate, gate, para, gate, para, sam, gate, bodhi, swaha. gati para gati para sam gati bodhisvaha. Gati gati para sam gati bodhisvaha. Gati gati para gati para sam gati bodhisvaha. Gati gati para gati para sam gati bodhisvaha. Gati gati para gati para sam gati bodhisvaha. Put our communal prayers in the chat. We can recite them together. Again, just basking in that resonance of our own voice, those physical sound waves that I will forever be geeked out about, that move beyond us, transform the things in front of us, and then move beyond those things, further transformed, right? Keep going, like a ripple through water, same sound waves. We will recite these together. May all beings be free. May those suffering experience liberation. May we hold each other through revolution. May we abolish everything that is not love. May we rebirth a free world. And moving back into our voices, we will invite our spiritual, which I'll placed in the chat. I can find my sticky note. Going back to We Shall Not Be Moved. This is a kind of classic black spiritual, and in my personal ancestral practice as a black person born in the States, as somebody who really is rooting into the blood lineage of my abolitionist ancestors, and that power of what does it take to free yourself and your descendants from slavery, from enslavement, from such intense circumstances, and how do I root into that? And one way has been through singing, through spirituals, and through deep grievous humming. I don't know. Lama Rod was saying the other day he's turning into the singing old black man that he never thought he would be, and I feel like whatever the I don't know, mystical witchy maternal figure in old school movies of a magical black lady, I never thought I'd get there, but it's me offering spirituals unironically and earnestly from my heart. So I'm here. I have arrived as well, and while I'm here, I'm just leaning in. And so this has been a beautiful practice. as somebody who doesn't sing also, to just like find stuff that's like chanting where it fits and it feels flowy. I'm gonna take some water. But we'll move through this for just a few minutes, going through and really inviting that energy of both being immovable in your spirit and completely forward in your trajectory. How do we merge those two things? How do I form a self that is constantly changing, adapting, fluid, unbound by even my own ideas of what I could be, and yet feels like home, right? How do I make a home in uncertainty so that I don't need to depend on things being the same? Instead, I feel welcome in that evolution. I feel like I have agency, like I am participating in my own transformation and in the transformation of the world around me. Because whether we try to or not, we are, right? We are changing everything we see and touch. Oh, beautiful. Thank you. We'll end with these prayers too. Thank you, Jamie. But yeah, we'll sing and then we'll end with those prayers because I loved reading that. Thank you. Okay. I'll go through it once. If you want to hear the melody, if you know it, just join in right away. Feel free to listen, hum, move. Just take in the moment. We'll sing for about 5 minutes. We shall not be moved. We shall not be moved. Like a tree planted by the water, we shall not be moved. We shall not be moved. We shall not be moved. Like a tree planted by the water, we shall not be moved. We shall not be moved. We shall not be moved. Like a tree planted by the water, we shall not be moved. 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 Like a tree planted by the water, we shall not be moved. We shall not be moved. We shall not be moved. Like a tree planted by the water, we shall not be moved. We shall not be moved. We shall not be moved. like a tree planted by the water. We shall not be moved. To borrow from Jamie's words in the chat, may we turn our rage to love, transform our love, love ourselves against all odds, to love each other's, multiply our love fiercely, not divide it, love more and more. Ashe, ashe, ashe. May we dedicate this practice to all beings. May all beings experience liberation. May we remember the liberation that is already within us. May we all get free. Thank you so much, everybody, for sitting with me today, for breathing with me. Let me stop this recording